So I'd like to introduce you to Robert Malaire and Michelle Neal, and we're going to talk today about ways that certified legal nurse consultants can communicate with attorney clients during the COVID-19 lockdown. I think while all CLNCs and attorneys both are on lockdown, it's even more important than ever to be out there communicating with their clients. We need to remember just because the courts are closed does not mean the attorneys aren't getting new cases. It doesn't mean the attorneys aren't working on the cases that they've already got. And it doesn't mean that they're not advancing the discovery process on all of their cases. What they need to hear from you as a certified legal nurse consultant. To me, communication during this time is more important than ever. Now, we know attorneys come in all shapes and sizes, right? And every attorney likes to be communicated to differently. So, Michelle, I'm going to start with you. How do your attorneys want you to communicate with them? Phone call, email, video conferencing?
Most of my attorneys and I communicate via email, occasionally a phone call. I think the email for them is just a quick, easy way. I'm very responsive on the email, so if maybe you're not a responsive person quickly and timely on the email, it wouldn't be the best approach. But whenever I see something, I email right back. So that is most common for my attorneys.
Okay. Is that your favorite way as well?
Honestly, yes, because I have children at home, it is the best and quietest way to communicate.
And how old are those children?
We have 2 8-year-olds and a 1-year-old, so there's loud noises.
So that's really smart. So in other words, it's important to consider not only what your attorney clients prefer, but what might be best and come across as more professional, because even though you know if there's a 1-year-old making noise in the background, you're still concentrating, the attorney might not appreciate that.
Exactly.
How about you, Robert? How do your attorneys want you to communicate with them?
I literally communicate in all three of those ways. Phone calls, they all have my personal cell phone, my work cell phone. They call me whenever they need something. As soon as this COVID-19 thing happened, I reached out to every attorney that I've been working with via phone and email saying, I am still alive. I'm still here. I can still help. I'm at home, but I'm able to work. And you know, everything's electronic. Send me records if you have them, and I'm still here. A lot of attorneys had a misconception that because I am an RN that I was still clinically active and would not be available to them. Very interesting concept that I had to kind of clear up that no, I am at home. I am still working on your cases. I am still here.
So I want to highlight what you said because this is important. Every certified legal nurse consultant, if you have not reached out to every attorney client and let them know that you are still actively available to consult on cases, because as Robert said, they might think you're out there on the front line and not available, then you should be communicating with them. So
you're missing a huge opportunity by not reaching out.
Thank you. Yes, really important.
And in addition to that, I have attorneys that I work with literally in Maine, New Hampshire, all over the country that we do video conferencing. I'm still doing depositions by video. I'm still doing different things by different electronic technology, doing video conferencing with attorneys, reviewing different things with them. So I try to stay in contact as often as possible with them in whatever avenue that they are interested in doing so.
Okay, and also staying in contact. I want to specify too, it's important to stay in contact in a helpful way, not a pesky way, right? And I know enough about you, Robert, to know that that's how you're going about it, but I really want to, again, highlight that for any certified legal nurse consultant listening.
My initial contact with the attorneys when all this was going on was a simple email that said, just touching base to let you know I am available if you need me. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you in this time. And that was basically it. It put the ball in their court. They knew that I was available and it accomplished what I needed to accomplish.
Thank you. Michelle, now you said you primarily do phone calls and email. What are some of the advantages of phone calls and what are some of the advantages of email? Now you mentioned one with email that children, you have a quiet environment, but what about the advantage of phone calls?
You know, for me, it's more so if the attorney prefers to do a phone call, of course, I'm going to do that with them. Most of my attorneys know that I have children at home, so maybe that's why they email me. But I think it's really up to them. I really don't care either way. If they wanted to video chat, I would do that as well. So I think, you know, some attorneys may want that social aspect if they're used to seeing you and they want to communicate that way. So I think it's really up to them.
I think it really depends on the attorney themselves. I have built very, very close personal relationships with some of my attorney clients. Those guys and ladies, they will call me. It is a much more relaxed conversation. They want to do it by phone because we're friends. There are others. I think there's so much to be said by verbal communication. There is so much that can be not taken the correct way or misconceived by text or email. When I email somebody, especially attorneys, it is fact-based, to the point. There is no reason for any misconception. On the phone, I can say something a bit more factual, and they understand me because we're talking. But I'm very careful with anything I type as text or email because I don't want it to be conceived in any other way than it was the intent it was.
To kind of summarize a few things, I mean, phone calls and video conferencing, there's kind of a personal aspect to that. And so you definitely have a different kind of connection when you're talking, as you're saying, that verbal communication. Email is great because, let's face it, email, it gives you your thread of the communication. So there's no possibility that somebody's going to be able to come back later and say, well, you forgot to mention that, you forgot to address that. You have a total thread in terms of what's been communicated. So if you think something's really important, even if you did a phone call or a video conference, it doesn't hurt to follow up with an email to summarize that. And I, for one, am a big fan of video conferencing because I personally like to look people in the eye. I like to know that I have their focus and attention. Because one of the things I'm personally noticing today is that a lot of times when people are just on phone calls, they're often on their computers at the same time, and it's very obvious that you don't have their full attention. It's a little more difficult if somebody's on video conference to be, peering at their computer screen or typing something. So I love video conferencing, but I think like both of you, I think all three are important and all three have their place in communication with attorneys. Now, Robert, you said you do video conference quite a bit. Do you have a special video conference tool, FaceTime, Skype, Zoom? I mean, what are you using with most of your attorneys?
Literally all of those.
Right.
Okay, some of them just want to FaceTime. I have one really close attorney that we've become friends with. He will literally be driving down the road and he'll FaceTime me, and I'm like, "You're driving. What are you doing?" But I mean, other ones when they're in their conference rooms, they have the setup and they'll just connect me. I can actually speak to the client, since especially at this time I can't do interviews or talk to the client in person.
Michelle, in terms of prepping for these video conferences, how do you recommend that people think about their dress code?
So I think it's important to still be as professional as you would if you were going into the office. You know, just because you're video conferencing and your neck up a lot of the time, still wear pants, you know. And it's important to still look the role, even though you're at home and you would want to be wearing sweats or whatever. It's still important to look professional. I
might also recommend that you try and do it with someone that can help critique your lighting and your background, to make sure that that's also looking good. You're not sitting in the dark and the attorney can easily see you. Have you ever screen shared with attorneys?
I don't, but I have talked to other people that have, and I think one of the important things is just make sure what's on your screen is professional looking. Let it be your business name across, not all your icons of everything. So make sure that that's nice and clean and concise.
Right. But again, video conferencing can be great for screen sharing if you're, especially during this time with COVID-19, if you're trying to actually communicate a case to an attorney and get into some technical kind of information, and you want to show them something visually, don't forget about the power of screen sharing. And in terms of other tips for effective video conferencing, I think Michelle kind of gave you the foundation, and that is conduct yourself as though you were in a real life environment with that attorney. So as long as you're conducting yourself in that manner, you should be pretty effective and pretty safe with your video conferencing. And just remember to look at the camera too, because that's another thing sometimes people who are not experienced in video in conferencing do forget to do. So, Michelle, any advice on retying the connection with an attorney-client that a CLNC has not heard from in a while?
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I don't even talk to an attorney for a couple weeks, even something simple via email, I always send a little email or a phone call just following up, letting them know that you're there. I think it's just a good idea, obviously during this time, but normally as well. Another way that I would do is if I haven't received a case from an attorney in a while, maybe send them a little postcard with a discount code or something if it's one that you're trying to still get consistent cases with. I think it's important to always make sure you're following up. Don't do a case and then not hear from them for a year, because that's on you. You should always follow up.
And in summary, I think one of the things that we're going to notice is that all that we're going through with COVID-19 is definitely going to affect our future with attorneys. We already believe, as certified legal nurse consultants, that attorneys are going to start to think about their cases, how they handle their cases a little differently. They're going to start working in a virtual environment even more intensely than ever before. I know some attorneys that probably didn't even know what video conferencing was, pretty much now is not going to be able to practice without it during this period. And so all of this is going to get carried out into the future. And so one of the messages that I want you to hear from today's blog is that use this time to stay connected with your attorneys, use the power of all of our phone, our email, our video conferencing communication that we have, and continue to carry that into the future with your attorney clients. So success to each of you. Please stay safe and be healthy. Thank you very much for joining us for this video blog.